Yes, hello. My name is Goda Palakaite. I'm an artist and researcher originally from Vilnius, Lithuania, but living in Brussels now. And I'm here to present the project which I conducted together with my collaborator, another artist, Sina Seife. It's called Tehran of Trees. And I will just start sharing my screen for you to see how it looks. We started this project with a concern that history has always been written, as well as the archives has always been assembled, and stories have always been told from the perspective of anthropos, and with anthropomorphic gaze and needs and intentions. And so we proposed to rethink trees, in this case, as historical beings and as knowledgeable creatures, and as something that can share their memory of the city with us. And so we did not intend to become trees or pretend that we become trees to see their perspective, but just to open the research and the notion of archive for a multiplicity of human and non-human also perceptions that coexist in the city. And so our central methodology was supposed to be ethnography in this research. We were supposed to go to Iran and conduct the research in the field using participant observation and deep listening, as in anthropology, this would be the methods to work with people. So we wanted to open it up to work with people and non-people. And so we, of course, all know what happened a bit more than a year ago. And when it became clear that that borders were closed and that we had to shift from ethnography to, long distance video calls, at first we felt disappointed, devastated, and annoyed, and tired, and unmotivated, and so on. But then we decided to embrace what French writer Maurice Blanchot proposed, that certain kinds of ideas can only arise in the absence of physical reality. And this particularly applies for writing. And so writing becomes possible where worlds and thoughts and images can only take the reality of its own. And so we decided to choose this rather speculative and imaginary path of research with having writing as its main method. Yet we still called it research in Tehran. We conducted research in Tehran, just we had to invite other people to be our eyes and ears and our memory. And so I would like to really thank some people here. So Christian Hansen created the sound track, basically 9 sound pieces. For this project, in every page you can see this icon where if you activate it, you hear an original soundtrack created for each piece. Parnian Tosi advised us on botanical matters and helped us to imagine trees that we have never seen. Ehsan Barati was our eyes with a photo camera walking through the streets of Tehran and showing, especially me who have never been to Iran, places that I could never visit. And a number of local Tehrani people who agreed to talk to us and gave us interviews, sharing their stories about trees, memories, their perception of their trees in Tehran. So now the outcome of this project is, as you see here, there are 8 animated organisms, and they are connected to 8 biological poems. Let's just have a very quick look at one of them, how it looks. So it's date plum or lotus fruit. My identity is unknown, but my taste has 10,000 years glory. My leaves are shiny and leathery, my fruits yellow when ripe. I remember as though it was yesterday when the sailors arrived. Not all of them tasted my fruit, but those who did forgot about home. They sucked my sweet juice ever longer, not willing to go, and so on. So as you might notice, the theme of this poem is taken from the Odyssey And the story where Odysseus' men land on the island where they find this mysterious lotus fruit and get drugged by its juice, by its fruits, and don't want to come back home anymore. And so this lotus fruit, it's still not clear what actually Homerus, what kind of plant he described, but an interpretation of it is this Diosporus lotus, and it grows in Iran. It's one of the trees that one of the plants that we visited in our journey. So this renewed research combined readings of classical, both Persian and Western literature, searching for interesting descriptions of the plants and flowers and animals and mushrooms, and the descriptions that would allow us to open our imagination towards the non-human history and memory. And we combine that with the scientific biological literature and consultations with the biologist Armian that I mentioned, and with the memories of local Tehrani people who provided us with this very personal dimension, so their relationships with the trees. And so its discursive outcome of this research is these poems, 8 poems, and the visual outcome is these animations. For example, here we have this wild mushroom, which is as beautiful and sexy as the lotus fruit and enters everywhere in the brain and the memory of its eaters. Or, for example, let's see, this one, it's about a cypress tree, and it represents one of the oldest species of the trees in Iran, so the cypress. And so inside its trunk, you see the map of Tehran, so the kind of the tree archives the city and not vice versa. And finally, another important part of this outcome is this long text, which we call Project Odyssey, which is kind of a description of the course of the research, but also its myth that we were trying to create, its journey. And so here we also merge scientific material with fiction and with mythology and fantasy and the testimonies of our people with whom we made interviews in a storytelling way. Proposing also to remember that the living archive once was taking shape as oral history or as stories. And so in this text, we speak as we, always we, meaning the multiplicity of voices that are merged together in this project.
Thank you very much. Now we have another important notion, the notion of storytelling. Which I think is very important in relation to the archive. And I would like to just maybe point at something once again that you mentioned, the shift from ethnography to imagination. And of course, you described how this happened because of the pandemic and the not traveling. But I remember when we could still travel, when we first met in Brussels, that I already had the impression that your project has a lot to do with imagination, with this idea of bringing in or researching for example, memory of trees. So where exactly would you say is the border between in your project between ethnography and imagination?
Yes, thank you for reminding that it's true. The project, the whole idea of the project, of course, it was a provocation to imagine something. So I think the shift has to do with the embodiment. So we were supposed to embody and activate our imagination through ethnography in the field while being there, while smelling, sensing, hearing, while being physically there. And now we had to find other people who could become our body. The people that I mentioned, that was on the one hand, it felt like a big loss. It felt like our hands are chopped off. But on the other hand, of course, it was a way to establish a small community that would otherwise not meet. And so people from totally different disciplines and fields and experiences, and we all come together in this project. Mm-hmm. So I think that was the main shift.